Welcome to Mass Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Let me start with some macro thoughts. Who needs the Fed? LIBOR is already tightening policy. This is via Mark Gilbert. Um, and actually, it's quite interesting, isn't it? It's climbing quite steeply there. That's a 3-month LIBOR average. Citibank sees the yen at 95 per dollar as intervention fears recede. And as I said, on January 11th, one of my conviction trades for 2016 is to buy the yen against just about everything I said. And it was closed at 117.30, and I was talking then about 105 and even 95 this year. Look at this correlation between gold, US Treasuries, and Euro Sterling. This is Aurelia again from Copenhagen. But you would have thought they would diverge, but they seem to be moving in lockstep. Yesterday I met a friend of mine for dinner at the Fairmont at the Norfolk, and I took this photograph and tweeted, tucked away in a hidden corner of Nairobi is the Norfolk Fairmont. As I was strolling around, I saw Shinzo Abe's doppelganger, and I asked Moshe, and Moshe said, well, there are a number of presidents who will be visiting for the TCAD conference and staying there as well. The Fairmont, Norfolk, is very famous. Let me give you this quote from Aldous Huxley's The Flame Trees of Thika. We were not going as far as that, only 2 days' journey in the ox cart to a bit of El Dorado. My father had been fortunate enough to buy in the bar of the Norfolk Hotel from a man wearing an old Italian tie. This is the watering hole called Sinsen, rather nice, and it really is a lovely place. It was good to catch up with Moshe as well. Paris Review, quoting Jan Morris, your antenna must be out all the time, picking up vibrations and details. Look at this incredible energy at Rio 2016 beach volleyball, especially from Brazil fans cheering on the home team. That was John Kerry. After that, he visited Nairobi. Italy's Renzi says Europe not finished after Brexit. Look at the photograph, they're all smiling. One can question whether they all feel that emotion as sincerely as it might show. John Kerry appreciates Uhuru Kenyatta and Kenya's leadership on regional peace, security, climate change, and efforts against terrorism. Citing arrogance and ungentlemanly behavior, Iran annulled an agreement with Russia on airbase. This is the New York Times. My conclusion there is, there is a sort of contrarian school of thought. The new US gendarme in the Middle East, well, not so new because under the Shah of Iran it was as well, is set to be Iran. So you can understand how they might not be so keen on Putin's showboating. Interesting piece in the National Review, 3 reasons Russia is escalating in Syria against the US on all fronts: diplomatic, military, covert action, and economic. Russia is escalating against the United States in Syria. Timing is everything. There are 3 reasons that Russia is choosing this moment to act. First off, put simply, Putin wants to maximize the control over Syria before America's next president takes office. He is an obsessive analyst of US politics, and like any good intelligence officer, his analysis shapes his evolving strategy. Consider, for example, how Putin praised Trump last December, just at the moment when it was likely to most please Trump. Or contemplate how the Russian president used WikiLeaks to release the hacked DNC emails immediately before the Democratic convention. Putin knows Mrs. Clinton is likely to be more hawkish than Trump and more aggressive than President Obama. But there's another fact. In late 2016, August 2016, Russia's ability to increase its power in Syria is highly significant. conducting air operations out of bases in Syria and Iran, Turkey now openly kneeling. Putin has today established domination over northern Syria, saying that Putin is also strengthened by his new alliance with Turkey. Ultimately, Putin is escalating because he believes he now holds the physical and political trump cards in Syria. He senses that the moment for decisive action has arrived. It really is extraordinary how he's inserted himself into the Middle East after a very long Russian absence. In October, I wrote and said he is a geopolitical grandmaster, and you see that from the moment he made that speech at Unga to today. Have a look at this photograph of when Assad visited Putin in the Kremlin, and note how Putin's engaging with the cameraman to send the message that he is receiving Assad. And interestingly, to show you an example of how it's just not about Syria, look at this, the Deputy Crown Prince, who really is the king in all but name in Saudi Arabia, discussed bilateral relations and regional issues with Russia's President's Special Envoy. Feyisa Lilesa was holding up his arms above his head in an X as a tribute to the Oromo people. This is the troubles we've seen in Ethiopia. Ethiopian government is killing my people, so I stand with all protests anywhere as Oromo is my tribe. A crowdfunding campaign has raised $40,000 to help the marathon silver medalist seek asylum. This chap, Ahmed Al-Faqi Al-Mahdi, is an imbecile. He's the fellow who's been charged at the International Criminal Court for defacing various reliquaries and precious religious items in Mali. International markets, the world now has its first $90 billion man. Guess who that is? Bill Gates. Have a look at the list. FX speculators on Chicago futures market have amassed a record short sterling position worth $7.68 billion. And that's why I've been saying that I think the pound is going to bounce. 7 of 8 periods of similarly stretched short pound positions over the last 20 years paved the way for an average rebound of 11% in sterling against the dollar. I'll put up a 3-month chart. I think you buy it with a 127.99 stop. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 113.34, dollar index 94.45, Japanese yen 100.14, Swissy 0.9618, the pound 131.60. The Aussie 0.7639, India rupee 67.115, South Korean won 11.1591, the Real 320.04, Egyptian pound 887.83, and the Rand at 13.52.31. So it's holding on to its gains, but not all of them. It's got as low as 13.20. Dollar index, I'll put up a 1-year chart. 93 level is still the key level. New Zealand dollar, about which I'm quite bullish, is now at 0.7322, which is a 1-year high, and I still think it's a buy. Gold, last trading at, let me check, where were we? Gold 1338.30. Have a look at this. PIX Old Mutual Gold Fund has gained 110% this year, beating the average 2.6% across South African investments tracked by Bloomberg. Crude oil, have a look at this 5-day chart and this other longer-term chart that I'm showing you. I think it's turned lower again after a vicious short squeeze. Kingfisher Airlines flying blind. The dog ate my accounts. This is in The Economist. This is the extraordinary Vijay Mallya. Put up a photograph of him. I couldn't find the one that he had of himself on some lino in a pool, smoking a great big stogie. He's pretty larger than life, pretty extraordinary chap. Unfortunately for him, lost a very, very profitable drinks empire because of his foray into airlines. Dhlakama, who leads Renamo in Mozambique, says no to power sharing. Renamo steps up attacks. This is a big problem. South African all share up 4.21% this year. Dollar rand, as I said, 13.52. So not as strong as 13.25, but really the other levels is quite a long way away. It's around 14.10. So whilst we're here, it's constructive for the rand. Egyptian EGX30 up 17.71% this year. Nigeria's Buhari is asking for emergency powers to revive the economy. Extra powers for 1 year, allowing him to take emergency decisions to revive the flagging economy. Talking about war against indiscipline. Our biggest challenge is that elites still feel it has to be business as usual. Nobody likes what we are doing, but we won't yield. We would rather take the flak to save the country. International Crisis Group says the government appears not to be responding to the country's economic crisis as speedily as that crisis is evolving. It is not generating solutions anywhere as urgently as citizens and the business community expect, he added. I think this has been a problem from day one when he should have devalued. Sun International joins the South African exodus from Nigeria. The Nigerian all-share is down 2.88% this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is down 8.68% this year. Zimbabwe freezes government hiring as it struggles to pay wages. 80% of its budget is spent on wages. The Public Service Commission has frozen the filing of all vacant critical and non-critical entry and promotional posts with immediate effect. Tanzania's President Magufuli orders officials to speed up LNG project. This project is Royal Dutch Shell, Statoil, ExxonMobil, Ophir Energy planning to build a $30 billion onshore LNG export terminal in partnership with Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation. Final investment decision has been held up by government delays in finalizing issues relating to acquisition of land at the site and establishing a legal framework for the nascent hydrocarbon body. I want to see this plant being built. We're taking too long. Sort out all the remaining issues so investors can start construction work immediately, Magufuli said. I wrote about this on the 16th of May, the geopolitics of pipelines in East Africa. And I said that Magufuli has shifted the center of gravity for East African oil and gas south in one fell swoop. Lapset was what Kenya wanted to do, but essentially he's stolen a march. In my humble opinion, Magufuli has moved with speed and precision. Paired at the price of brokerage charges, he's winning. It's time for some serious soul-searching, folks. Government is eyeing a major oil trading hub in Tanga. This is another story I referred to yesterday. John Kerry will travel to Kenya, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia. He's been here, he's going to Nigeria. He met with President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House. Look at the photograph that the President tweeted. Equity Group reported first half profits. Loans and advances to customers expanded 13.556%. Profit before tax was up 17.649%. Gross NPL and advances up 19.048%. Net NPLs up 46.382%. These were strong results, I thought, on balance. NPL ratio was 4.6%. Kestrel were forecasting 3.9%. Significant improvement is expected in quarter three, they're saying. South Sudan largely disappointed, but that's been a story across everyone who's operating there. Have a look at the article I wrote over the weekend about Standard Chartered PLC and Standard Chartered Kenya, how they are both outliers. Limuru Tea reported first half earnings per share expanded 20.132%. Revenues were up 40%. But it's really a real estate play. $9.6 million, which is its market cap, gets you 275 hectares of tea land, and that works out at about $34,000 per hectare. And it's probably considerably more than that. Nairobi All Share had a big tumble yesterday, fell 1.38%. It's down 0.67% this year. The NSE 20 is down 14.47% this year, not far off a 52-month low. IT shares, as I said yesterday, which they've been soft of late, but fallen below equilibrium, and saw a little bit of a rebound yesterday. Catroy up 6.25%, Cecini up 2.63%, Safaricom eased 2.35% off a record closing high of 20.8 to close at 20.75, up 36.13% on a total return basis this year. Equity Group reported first half earnings, but as I said, the share price eased back 1.98% to close at 37. KCB unchanged at 32.50. It's very oversold. I think there's been a divestment by a foreign investor, but then I think this is an opportunity to pick it up because it's very oversold. Standard Chartered, which has been a bull outlier and a soft banking component of the NSE, eased back 0.96%, but it's delivered a 29% return so far for shareholders when you include the dividends. Stanlib Fahari Income REIT slumped 7.522% to close at a fresh all-time low of 1045 on heavy volume action of just over 1 million shares, has melted 52.5% since the start of the year, and has probably suffered contagion via the thrice extended Fusion D-REIT. Reported their 7-month earnings on August 16, but it hasn't helped. Total Kenya was up 9.39%. Very strong feature. Actually, it was interesting when in Malawi there were a lot of Total stations as well. And when I looked around, what they're getting right is actually the forecourt, what they're offering there, and the business they're transacting. Once again, thank you for stopping by.